Hey guys, Ben Paint here, and today we're back once again for another video, and this time we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're not going to be karting, we are instead going to be delving into the wild world of sim racing. We're going to be racing on iRacing at Okayama short in the Formula Vees, just to try and mix the content up a little bit. So if you guys do enjoy this video, then please let me know down below in the comment section. I'll know whether to do a few more videos in the future. If not, let me know as well, and I'll stick to the real life stuff. But if you do enjoy this video, please leave a like on the video down below, as it really does help me out. And also subscribe to the channel if you're new, or if you haven't already, as I really do appreciate it. But without further ado, we're going to jump into our very first race and see how we get on. Jumping into our very first race in this one then, guys, we're lining up in P2, about 3 or 4 tenths off of the driver in first position. So we're just coming into the start of the race here. Obviously we've got the red lights before we get underway, and we want to try and get off to as solid a start as we possibly can, and just try and break away from some of the other drivers that are behind us. Now, the driver in first position, his name is Todd, and I've raced with him a few times off camera before, and I know that he is a very fast driver. However, if you did see at the top of the screen there was a little bit of an incident going into the first corner, and this has allowed myself and Todd just to begin to run away off into the distance. Now, in the Formula Vees, if you don't already know, if you are within 1 second, you're going to get a tremendous amount of tow in the vehicle, and this is going to allow you to keep up with a driver even if they are about half a second a lap ahead of you. So the fact we're able to break away from that sort of tow and momentum from behind us, this led to us being able to just sort of work together and get away into the distance. Now you can see I'm trying to sit quite closely behind Todd. I didn't want to get too close and sort of pressurise both of us into a mistake, because when you go round on the first lap in the Formula V's, tyres are quite cold and it's very easy to sort of make a mistake and ruin the rest of your race. So you can see here we're getting quite close here going into the first corner, deciding to put a little bit of pressure on the driver in front of us, but obviously I didn't want to sort of end up running into the back of them. And again, we're just trying to get into the corner. You can see he goes a little bit wide here, getting a little bit squirrely on the brakes, and that has allowed me to really close up behind them. Now from this, I think he then allowed me to just go past, so he just moves to the side there, which I was a little bit confused about, as I wanted to have quite an even race, but instead there he just moved over to the left hand side and allowed us to just sort of pull away in first position. However, I did not in fact pull away. As I mentioned, Todd is a few tenths a lap quicker than us, so jumping forward in this one, you can see that he is all over the back of us as we are going down the start finish straight a few laps later. And I just sort of opened up the outside for him. I didn't want him to go up the inside, as I knew if I did this he was probably going to sort of run away into the distance, so I wanted to try and keep him pinned to the outside. However, he does execute a very nice switchback on us. I didn't really cover off the line very well, and again I was just trying to hold it round the outside here into the second corner, just to ensure that I held the position. I didn't want to give up first place without a fight. I knew that obviously if I'm in second, I'm going to get a good amount of draft or tow going down the start finish straight, but I did like being able to actually lead the race myself. So skipping forward once again, we do in fact skip forward to the very last lap of the race. You can see I've held the same position and the same sort of distance throughout the rest of the race, but coming down into the last lap, you can see Todd goes right up the inside, didn't cover it off very well, so I moved back to the outside line to try and hold it around the outside, but he covers it off quite well, having a great race here. And again, I just tag in behind him, and at this point I'm hoping to just stay as close as I can to ensure that we can maybe get a good run going out of the last corner to make an overtake, unless he makes any sort of mistakes going into the last few corners. And at this point we were about 5 seconds ahead, the pair of us, even though we've been having a nice little battle with one another throughout the whole race. So here you can see I'm just trying to carry as much momentum as I can going into the last corner, trying to get on the accelerator as early as possible, but I haven't got the best exit. Todd's managed to sort of do a better job compared to us, and this then leads to him sort of shooting away, and again he manages to do the same sort of thing into the last corner. Now I am gaining on him slowly throughout the rest of the race here, down the start finish straight, and he moves to the right hand side to break the tow, but As a matter of fact, he in fact just brakes on the line and gives us the win. So I was quite surprised about this one. However, we are going to jump into just a little bit of a review of what happened on the first lap, because I was quite confused as to why we gained such a big gap immediately. And we can see here that one of the drivers spun out, and this then caused the driver in the blue and black car to end up chilling on the side of the road. So with this, we're going to jump into the results from that race. You can see that our iRating has changed by 57, which I'm really happy about, getting very close to 3,000, which was in fact my goal for the end of the year, and we've managed to get really close already. Into the next race then, you can see that we are starting behind another driver in second place, 3/10 off their time, and again we're going to try and get off to as good a start as we can to try and escape some of the other drivers behind us. We get an absolutely beautiful launch off the line using the clutch, which is something that I am newly using. I use the hand clutch on my wheel, something that I haven't really tried doing before, and I don't know why I haven't. But as we round out the first corner, we do in fact get interrupted.
What the f*** is wrong with you, man?
So clearly someone wasn't having the best of times going through the first corner there. And in this race, once again, I was just trying to pull a bit of a gap. I knew that the drivers behind me were slower. Obviously, the only driver that had a bit more pace than me was the driver in 4th position currently. So I knew that if I was able to break away, break a bit of a gap, then I would be on for a pretty easy and smooth sailing race, because I'd be out of the tow and then I'd just be able to break off into the distance. Now, we are going to skip forward here once again in this one to the very last lap, where you can see we did just that and won the race by 3.9 seconds. So again, I was really happy with this one, and this race was actually the one that puts me up into the 3K iRating, which I'm really happy with. It was something that I wanted to achieve by the end of the year, but you can see from the results in that race, we did finish in first place again with a 62 rating increase, which I'm really happy with. And just for a little bit of a bonus here at the end of the video, I'm going to show you one of the races that I recorded previously. We did in fact have an absolute shocking time in qualifying. I span off and qualified in 10th. And also apologies for no audio in this one. I'm going to have some music playing in the background as a little bit of background noise, because the sound in this one just had a little bit of a fumble, if I'm honest. So we started in 10th in this one. We've managed to gain a position off the start finish line, and I wanted to try and make as many positions as I could as quickly as possible, as I knew I had the pace to be on the podium at least. So if I could claw any positions back in this one, I was going to be really happy with the result. Now, obviously, as I mentioned, this was done previously to the other races that you've just watched, and I was feeling quite racy in this one, looking down the inside straight away. However, the driver in front of us covers it off quite well by taking an early apex, and I did have to slam on the brakes to avoid going straight into the back of them there. But I knew that the drivers around us were either going to work together quite well, or they were all just going to have a massive scrap, and it was going to allow us back into the race. So we're hoping that we can stay within a second. As I mentioned earlier, you will see how much time you gain down the start finish straight by being in the draft or in the tow of the drivers around you. So obviously, when there's drivers in the tow of one another, you're all going to be going at the same pace, whereas when there's a driver in first and you're in second, you're going to have a massive amount of overspeed on them. So coming into the first corner on the second lap, the driver in the red car there on the left decides to go for a little trip in the gravel trap, so that was another position gained for us. We're up into 8th position at this point. We've gained 2 places throughout this race so far, and I knew that if I wanted to finish on the podium, I would have to make some more quick moves to get back into the race. So you can see the driver there in front of us in 7th. He just went a little bit wide there. That cost him a lot of momentum going into the double hairpin section. I tried to hang it around the outside of the first hairpin to ensure that I had the inside line for the second hairpin. That's exactly what I do. Managed to get on the throttle a little bit earlier. We do have a little bit of contact there, which made me a little bit worried. And then as we come through the second to the last corner, I just drift a little bit too wide, opening up the steering, and we have another little bit of a locked tyre situation. He goes wide into the last corner. However, with the momentum, we are able to begin to sail past him. However, the driver behind us, who has just watched all of this carnage unfolding, is now trying to go up the inside of us. So we're going 3 wide into the first corner, which is never really a place you want to be. However, I thought if I could brake as late as possible and try and keep the momentum up, I'd be able to get to the apex first, and that's exactly what we managed to do. Now, we move forward in this one and see some absolute carnage turning up ahead into the first corner, probably about 70 cars wide going into the first corner, so I knew that something was going to kick off later into this race, especially when everyone is this tightly packed together and racing with one another rather than working together. And here I was trying to keep momentum up. I had to hit the brakes slightly to ensure that I didn't go colliding into the car in the colour turquoise there. So we are still in 7th. We haven't actually gained any more positions, but we also have the turquoise car jumping for joy here as he knows what's going to happen. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't make any contact with anyone, much like I did earlier in the race. Just wanted to try and get past as cleanly as possible. So I thought, going into the last couple of corners here, the guys are going side by side up ahead of us. I wanted to brake as early as possible to ensure that I could get onto the power early, and this gave us the best run coming down the start finish straight here. You can see they're already looking to go 3 wide. I thought, let's make it interesting and stick my nose in here to make it 4 wide, and now we're really in a bit of trouble here going into the first corner. However, much like we did earlier in the race, just latest on the brakes here, and this allowed us to squeeze past 3 people in 1 corner, which I was really happy with, able to make our way up into 4th, down from 7th, which is probably one of the best moves of my iRacing career, if I'm honest. The driver behind, who was in that little group, has crumbled under the pressure and folded out of the race there on the second corner as well. And now we had our eyes set on the drivers in the top 3, who really weren't deciding to work together, and instead were having a massive battle going 3 wide through a majority of the whole circuit. You can see the driver up ahead of us in 3rd place here is trying to go for a little bit of a switchback on the driver in 2nd place currently, not deciding to funnel back in and use the toe. Instead, he's just keeping his car on the inside and has made the move stick. However, he's compromised his run going into the very first corner of the lap. So here you can see I'm trying to make the most of it, deciding to move over to the left hand side, but I do get squeezed quite a bit here, almost getting run off the track, and I didn't really want to keep my nose in there for too much, so I decided to dip off the brakes, having to hit the brakes a little bit more, almost getting run into the back of by the driver behind us as well. So I'm having to almost concede this position. I went a little bit squirrely into the second corner here, so I decided to sort of give up that position and live to fight for another day and try and keep in touch with the guys up ahead rather than battling with the driver who is in front of us at the moment. So you can see here I just decided to brake and try and get in behind, file in behind and use his toe rather than really trying to send it. But I guess I had other ideas at this point. I sent a move up the inside, didn't quite have the momentum there, so decided to dip in behind the driver who was in 4th place currently, as I could see visually that we were losing a bit of time by having a bit of side-by-side time with one another as well, and the driver behind us was also catching up. So I decided to work with the driver up ahead, and you can see moving into the latter stages of the race we have managed to catch up and get quite close. But as we go through the second corner here, once again, there's only going to be carnage kicking off as we go in here. And very luckily, we managed to avoid this incident where the driver was going absolutely airborne here. I don't know how we managed to avoid it, but we did come out with a 4x even though we didn't make any contact. So I'm going to drop that down to netcode, as I did just manage to swerve out the way there. And now we are on the back of the drivers in the top 2, and we're unopposed by anyone behind us. So I was just trying to think of when the best place would be to make an overtake. I tried to take a nice wide line here to follow through the driver on the inside. However, he doesn't get the best run, and unfortunately there, that then caused me to have to lift off and sort of let them go side by side here. Again, having to hit the brakes going into the corner as the driver almost got cut off there, and he was having none of it, so stuck his nose up the inside once again. And this gives us a very good run going into the very last lap of the race. I decided to take my chances here, stick the car to the very outside line, and was hoping to try and travel right around the outside if I could brake late enough. So I decided to brake a little bit later than I usually do here, maybe hitting the brakes a little bit too much, and this has allowed the driver on our inside to funnel through into first. However, we have now managed to capture 2nd position for the time being, but the driver in 3rd place is having absolutely none of it, trying to follow through the driver on the inside line here. I'm trying to hold it around the outside, and luckily I'm able to hold it just about. A little bit of tyre bang here, and I do have the inside line. I'm getting absolutely squeezed to the inside. Was a little bit unsure what to do here. I was trying to judge what the driver in front was doing. A little bit of a tap, so a little bit of ding-dong battling going on. Luckily, we weren't getting any incident points for this, and again, having to shift up from second, dropping down to try and get a better run going into the second hairpin here, and again, just getting the toe from the driver in first gives us a little bit of a momentum boost going into the last couple of corners. I was really happy with this. I thought I had solidified P2 at this point. The driver behind goes for a huge lunge. I didn't quite notice them at the time until I looked in the rearview mirror and saw them sliding out, but my eyes were solely fixated on the win here. I was trying to close as much time as I could coming across the line. However, we just missed out by about 100th of a second, and we finished this race in second place. So I was really happy to move from 10th to second in this one. However, I'm going to drop you guys into a little bit of an outro now. So I'm just jumping in here at the end, guys, just to sort of summarise what's been going on. Obviously, wanted to mix up the content a little bit compared to just the real life racing, because of course, over the winter period, we're not going to be racing as much, just in an attempt to save a bit of money, and also for the fact that over winter there is no races. So I thought I'd bring something to the channel, something a little bit new and fresh, just to see if you guys enjoy it. If you let me know down below in the comments if you do enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, I'll know whether to carry it on, make some more content, or if you want me to just stick to the karting, please let me know, because I do enjoy just making videos in general, and I find it a lot of fun, if I'm honest. So obviously, apologies once again for the lack of audio in the third race, which was actually the first race because I did it previously compared to the other two races, but I thought I'd leave it in because it was just so much chaos and I had so much fun. And honestly, I just wanted to show you guys what was going on. A little bit of rubbing, a little bit of racing. It was a great time. However, this does in fact bring us to the end of the video, so I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have, can you please leave a like on the video down below and subscribe to the channel if you're new or if you haven't already, as it really does help me out and I always appreciate it. I appreciate every single one of you that showed me support this year. Obviously, when we've been racing throughout Team Sport, Club 73 and SRK, had such an amazing year, and I just thought I'd mix it up a little bit to round out the end of it. So, formalities out the way as usual. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.